Oh, thank you so much, Lisa, for inviting me to come share. Um, and I just wanted to say hello, everyone. Friends that I have met before and friends that I'll be making. I'm delighted to be here today. Um, so I'm delighted to be here with everybody to celebrate the time of the Autumn Gathering, a time when we can reflect on the richness of community and friendship, and in the autumn time, the fruits of our spiritual practice. So as some of you know, I have a teenage daughter. And as she grows up, I find myself thinking of the friends that she surrounds herself with, right? So she'll talk about the cafeteria at school, and friends that are studious, friends that are a little more wild and excited, some that have some challenges happening in life, and some that are sporty or some makeup, and then I find myself wondering, what table will she end up sitting with, right? And who will she be, right? And who will she be surrounding herself with? And it's such a time for exploration and time for experimentation and of figuring out, like, who am I and where do I belong? And so I want my daughter to find friends that will be a positive influence on her, that will see her and love her for who she is, who will be, silly and full of laughter, and also kind and compassionate and wise, and help her to grow, right? Like good people that love you, that want to help you, grow in the ways that you want to, right? And so I think it's natural for a parent to want that, right? To figure out, like, if my daughter can sit at a table with people like this in middle school and high school, whew, right? Like half my job is done, right there, right? Um, and I imagine that all of us, whether we're parents or not, have had moments of wishing for good friends, right? Be it a metaphorical lunch table or here as we gather for the autumn celebration with all this wonderful food. And then to be surrounded by good friends, not just for ourselves, but for the people in our lives, right? Friends that remind us of what truly matters, who encourage us on our path and who comfort us when things are hard. And so this need for connection is not just spiritual. So in my day life, right, I work in healthcare. And so loneliness is an epidemic that the US Surgeon General has spoken of, that loneliness can be just as bad as smoking as far as its ill health effects on our body and on our longevity. I mean, it really, goes unnoticed how harmful loneliness can be, right? And as I hear of other teenagers scrolling on their phones or watching YouTube or, just being disconnected, it makes me think of how, even though we seem connected right now, how much of us, how we isolate and how we miss this like in-person connection. And that even if it's virtual, it's the connection about talking about things that actually really matter to us and really, come from the heart, right? Things that can change our lives. And so the Buddha talked about this, the importance of community and friendship. And from way back then, right, that medicine is still profound and important in our modern everyday life. So the Buddha recognized the importance of friendship and community in the Upada Sutta. The Buddha's close disciple, Ananda, once said to him, "Half of the holy life, Lord, is spiritual friendship, companionship, and association." And the Buddha corrected him and said, "Not so, Ananda. Spiritual friendship is not half of the holy life. It is all of the holy life." And so this is such an important teaching. And as I see you all here, right, I just am really touched about this like coming together for this autumn gathering and coming together as community. That we're sitting at this lunch table, cultivating our spiritual life together, right? Because Sangha is more than just a gathering of people, right? In a physical space. It's a gathering of mutual support and connection and coming together to help each other cultivate this kindness, compassion, and wisdom in our lives. Um, just like, it's not quite cool enough now, but when the trees start to let go, right? They let go of their leaves, right? And so we might let go of our attachments. And that's easier in the warmth and the support of community, right? Because true transformation can be hard, it can be scary, and it helps to have a place to land, right? And a place to be held. And so, in this season of harvest, we might see, things slowing down, and then like the abundance um, of our, of the work that we've been doing, the transformation that we've been doing, after the seeds, the watering, the harvest comes, right? And so we're in that stage of like, what is the harvest of our actions? And so just as the trees bear fruit, we might take a moment and pause and reflect like, who are our friends, the companions and communities that actually support us, right? Um, and what understandings might you have gathered? And how has the Sangha of Dassanaya supported this, right? Um, and so, in another sutta, um, uh, Digajanu Sutta, the Buddha offers advice about wise friends and community, and that one should follow the example of those who are virtuous and wise and guide wisdom, right? And so, um, it's always amazing to come in contact with somebody who is like really not just talking the talk, but walking the walk, right? And helps others to walk the walk in their lives too, right? And um, even just small things like, oh, there's a painting of of an elephant, and this is the background and the story, and it's like not a big deal for Dhammadeepa to share this, it seems, and yet it's such a big deal, right? Like, how often do we have the opportunity to be with those that are, virtuous and wise and kind and can help us to, develop and cultivate community so we have that in our lives and so that we can share it with those in our lives and so that, you know, um, so that we can share from our abundance, right? So I remember when I was little, my mom, like we'd have this big garden in the backyard, and we'd grow like all these Asian vegetables and American vegetables, and come harvest time, right? Like there was so much produce. It was like tomatoes and squash and zucchinis. And from the abundance, we would just like force it on people, right? It was like, mailman, come take half a dozen, right? I don't know who you are showing up at my house, but take a half a dozen, right? Because it's just like when you have so much abundance, you just want to share, right? Because it's good and it's nourishing and it's a gift, right? And so for us in this time, maybe reflecting on the gifts we've been given, the gifts that we share with each other, and connecting with a sense of abundance, and how we might pass on those gifts to others. So just appreciating you all being here and, thank you for your practice.
Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato Samma Sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Buddhang dhammang sanghang namasami. Oh, such a feeling of joy right now. That's all I can think of. But I did have some other things that I wanted to share. So thanks again, Jen, for getting us started here and really focusing on the sense of the seasons and the community. And what I wanted to talk about a little bit is the history of this gathering and why it's relevant to us today. So this is a time in the Buddha, so the historical Buddha, an Indian man who lived in northern India about 6th century BC. He was an actual person, a human being who walked this path and had students and walked around to teach anybody who was willing to listen about what he had discovered and how to walk this same path of peace. And then he would send his students out, his so-called disciples, right? The monks and nuns who had learned from him, and they would go out to the different towns. But what happened at one point was that the farmers started to be worried in the summertime. So in the summertime in this part of India, it's the monsoon season. So there would be these huge, huge storms, right? And the ground would get soaked with mud and there would be standing water in places. We know about this, right? We're experiencing this today in many parts of the world. But the summer season would come and the farmers were quite concerned that the monastics who were out traveling around trying to share the Dhamma would be stepping on the small crops or stepping on the creatures that would come out of the mud, right? So all different kinds of small beings come out when the water gets too deep. And so they went to the Buddha and said, hey, we're worried about this. Please have them stop. And that is a very important lesson right there, right? That the Buddha was someone who's open to hearing about people's concerns. Just because he was a completely awakened being didn't mean that he wasn't willing to hear what people thought and people in the community and what was important to them and what would help them, what would be supportive. Right? So he hears about this problem and he says to the monastics, okay, everybody stop traveling during the monsoon season. So from the full moon of July till the full moon of October. So they didn't have, digital clocks or phones, cell phones to go by. So they used the moon, the cycles of the moon, to tell the time of the seasons when they were going to do things. Right. And so that became a time where the monastics would be still. They would stay in one place for that period of time. It didn't have to be all in the same place. They would park themselves in all sorts of different places. But during that time, they would give teachings wherever they were, right? And then when the end of that time came in October, then the folks where they had been residing, were so excited to send them on their way. So they'd give them the supplies that they needed to go on their way, to keep teaching in other places, and as gratitude for that beautiful exchange that they had been having all summer. Yeah. So nowadays, it's a little bit different, right? I'm not stepping on anybody's crops or creatures, hopefully. We do, I hope, I do, and we do try to be thoughtful about travel, take the train when we can, take the train instead of taking a flight, or, we seem to have an abundance of grasshoppers this year, take the grasshoppers back out to the outdoors where they'll be more happy, things of this nature. But For me, the beauty of this story is the compassion. That this particular day is not just about giving and celebrating and all of those wonderful things. It's also based very deeply in a sense of compassion. Compassion for each other, compassion for the concerns of the farmers, for the monastics, that they should be well received and well cared for wherever they were, compassion for the Sangha, the farmers and all the other lay folks who were also having these beautiful interactions, that they would know that they had been heard and that they were being supported not just with these beautiful, vast wisdom teachings, but also with the teaching that met them right where they are in their everyday life. Right? So this deep, deep sense of compassion is built into everything we do in the Dharma, you know? And it's interesting because, you know, there are many, many different threads of Buddhism. There's not one Buddhism. There are many, many different styles and traditions and lineages and texts. You can see in the library there that we have all sorts of different sutras and commentaries on sutras, right? But the thread that runs through all of them is this sense of compassion. Not even meditation, interestingly. There are some traditions where meditation isn't really a thing, some Buddhist traditions. Although it's near and dear to my heart, I think, and to many of us here in this Sangha. But this care, this way of doing our best to prevent harm, to prevent suffering, to do what we can for that. So we know that we live in a world where we're not going to be able to bring an end to every form of suffering that we encounter. It's not like that. It is what we do, what we can, and we really understand how to bring an end to the suffering in our own hearts and minds, and how that helps us to be a presence in the world for less suffering and for more wisdom. Yeah. So this gathering, this autumn gathering, is, as I said, also quite a celebration. It's a time when the whole Sangha was able to get together and appreciate one another's presence and joy, just as Jen was referring to earlier. And here at Dassanaya, so it's been quite the year. So we have one of these every year, and Dassanaya Buddhist Community is our name. And that word Dassanaya, some folks may not know that word Dassanaya is a Pali word. It's a word from one of the ancient Indic languages, and it means for the purpose of seeing, or in order to see. So it's Buddhist community. It's this gathering, this wonderful gathering and intimate connection of practitioners and folks who are interested in seeing the world in this way of wisdom, this great tradition of wisdom. And so it has been quite the year. We have had lots of new folks come into the Sangha in this last year. We've also had lots of folks who have been with us since the beginning. The beginning not being very long ago, it was about 3 years ago that I moved to this area, specifically to be close to my daughter Kayla. Yay, there's Kayla. And and what a warm, welcoming opportunity it has been. And there's been lots of opportunity for travel. So we've given teachings, we've shared, thanks to all of you and your support, really, frankly. It's been possible to share teachings with folks in London and folks in Mexico and folks in Colombia and folks in Uruguay and folks in Thailand and Canada and any number of different places. This is very much a global community. So I hope that you also remember that what you're doing here benefits you deeply in some way, but it also makes possible the practice for so many other folks, whether we see them on the screen or we don't. I promise you that there are many, many people who are grateful for all that you do here at Dassanaya. So, and Stephen and Rocky are our two teachers in training. So that was also something new that developed this year as I was going off to London for some studies. And they have done such a wonderful job, I think, of really holding our hearts and our practice intentions, and also growing in their own ways, you know. So I think that's very much going to be our theme for this year is growing in the Dhamma in all the various ways here, and also bringing those studies that I was away for. So thanks everyone for your support and your patience while I was doing some travels. Bringing those teachings to light. So starting in December, we'll be having workshops every month, virtual tours, virtual visits to some of the most profound collections of Buddhist art around the world, both in museums and in actual practice places like China and India. So, so I hope to be able to share all of that with you, and that will be another thread for the coming year. So growing teachers and growing Sangha and the thread of art and sharing that expression, and many, many more things that we want to bring together. But really more than anything, again, just know that you have a home here and that you have an open door for your practice, that it's important for me and for many of us who are helping to keep this thing organized, that we hear what it is that helps to support you to stay on the path, because it's a long, winding road, and we can help each other so much in these different ways. So that's what I wanted to share with you today. Much gratitude, and know that we are the torchbearers. We are the ones in whom the Dharma is being invested. You might not think of yourself that way, but that is the truth. That is how it is. Buddhism has been in the United States for something like about 120 years or so, 100 years, 120 years, less than that in certain lineages. And in the arc of things, that's a very short period of time, right? Think of the historians who will look back. I'm looking at pieces of art from 1,500 years ago. Think of the historians who will look back and see us as the people who shaped Buddhism in this country, in this part of the world, in the parts of the world where you are. So let's go and do that beautiful work, beautiful practice together. And again, thank you so much. So this is a time that we set aside for personal sharing. So you don't have to share, but if you brought something, a poem or a reading, or there's something from a sutta that you wanted to read aloud to the group, or maybe you have some, I don't know, interpretive dance. I don't know. It's all welcome. If anybody wants to share, we would just pass the mic around, and just know that the little round part here is the top of the mic. So that's the part you want to keep close to your mouth. So Susan, did you raise your hand? Yeah. So special thank you also to Dana Elliott and Kylie Manjaraja and Jennifer Cho, as I said earlier, and Susan Chastain and Krista Gomez. Is it Bruce? Bruce's. Okay, I'm sorry. I always get
Gomez was my husband.
Oh, okay. Pardon me.
That's all right. It's still Lord.
Aw,
Okay, so special thanks to all of them who helped really literally make this day come together. I cannot do it on my own and certainly wouldn't want to.
Thank
you. Wonderful things.
Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Oh, good. Okay, good. Well, what I have is an offering from someone who couldn't be here today, from Olivia Haas, who lives in Germany, but at the moment is traveling in Thailand. And so she wasn't able to join us online either. But she wanted to give a present and asked me to share the present and to explain what it is and to read a sutta. So I'd like to do those things. So what she did is she named a star on October 3rd, which is why I was interested in your birthday. And the name of the star is the Dassanaya Buddhist star. I have a copy of the certificate, but she will bring the official certificate when she visits in April.
Yes.
It has the coordinates of celestial coordinates of the star, which is in the Libra constellation. And yeah, so yeah, a star. And she asked me to say, she said, this present is a symbol of our bond through time and space. And may this little star be a light in the dark hours of the day that friendly remind us that we could never be alone. Yeah. And the sutta is called Morning. And it goes, mendicants, those sentient beings who do good things in the morning by way of body, speech, and mind have a good morning. Those sentient beings who do a good thing at midday by way of body, speech, and mind have a good midday. Those sentient beings who do good things in the evening by way of body, speech, and mind have a good evening. A good star, a good fortune, a good dawn, a good rising, a good moment, a good hour. These come with good gifts to spiritual practitioners. Worthy deeds of body, verbal worthy deeds of mind, worthy resolutions. When your deeds have been worthy, you get worthy benefits. Those happy with these benefits flourish in the Buddha's teaching. May you and all your relatives be healthy and happy. Yeah. So I'd like to, yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah.
thank you.
Yeah.
So yes, a wonderful thank you to Olivia, who is going to be coming in April because she's going to be taking the precepts. She's going to be taking the 16 Bodhisattva vows with us here in a special ceremony. She's been sewing her rakusu and all of that. So wonderful. Oh, thank you so much, Olivia. Maybe she'll see the recording. So great. So again, look at that. So many global. Well, now interstellar. Everybody's welcome to go visit the star, the Dassanaya star. Anybody else who wants to share a poem or a thought, a sutta? Yes, Melanie, please.
So, this concerns the passing of a friend, okay, a difficult friend. He had a stroke. He was at the home. And I kept saying, okay, I'll go see him. I'll go see him. He couldn't speak. He was lying in the bed. I didn't see him. My other friends saw him and gave him flowers. So this person was an environmental warrior. This person taught me how to hike down the trail at Gulf Branch, go to the Potomac, clear out the non-native invasives and make space for the real plants that should live here. And he persisted and persisted. He was very stubborn, headstrong, a little bit controlling, and a bit too much, you know, but his heart was in the right place. So Stig's done the trail. People around me have done it. I physically could not do what he wanted me to do, which was to continue his work along the river, but I did contribute. We went to visit him, Stig and me, and he had been discharged, and we thought he was at home, and then suddenly the lady at the desk said, he's passed away. So it feels like sand slipping through my fingers, and how I could think that I failed him, but I haven't, because I continue the work in my own park. And I think of him when I'm struggling with porcelainberry and I'm struggling with very persistent, aggressive plants that should not be here. And I think of him and his thorniness and his persistence and how he helped me present about the birds that are dying, present the famous movie, The Missing, at the Unitarian Church, which was a massive gathering of about 100 people. How he was good at marketing and how he was good at things. So I think what he's taught me is that death is ephemeral. Death is, but what's enduring and eternal is opening the heart to what the person gave in their love of what they did. It's okay. I think, though, that he's in the Bardo period, I think. So what I wanted this group to do was to help him, usher him on, because I've been feeling things when I go out in my garden, sort of thoughts that pass, a message or a guidance, or a message that says, get back to Sharp Park, go there, you know. So I don't want him to be lost. I want him to go be ushered to the next place, wherever it is. And that's been in the flurry and fluster and the work and do this, do that. It needs to be space to let him go where he needs to go. And so it's a sadness. But I don't want to burden the group with this. But I do feel as if in this time and place, there is a need in the universe for this person to be ushered on. And I've thought of him. I've encouraged him to go on. Don't linger. Go on. And I know it will get calm. I know. But right now, no. So that's just a thought. Anyway.
So thank you for sharing that, Melanie. And I think the way to really help in such a situation is that we can do a very brief chant for him, and we can just dedicate the merits of the chant for him. It's kind of like we can't really give merit away, so I want to be very clear about what I believe to be the correct teaching about this. You can't really give the merit to someone, but what you can do is you can hold it up like a candle, that it sheds a light, it helps give a positive space for another person. So, or another karmic stream, so to speak, in this case. Okay, so I'm just going to give a very brief chant, and then if folks want to, in their hearts, in their minds, just share it with this person, then you can just do that silently. All right. So, bhavatu sabba mangalang rakantu sabba devata sabba buddha nubhavena sada soti bhavantu te. Bhavatu sabba mangalang rakantu sabba devata sabba dhamma nubhavena sada soti bhavantu te. Bhavatu sabba mangalang rakantu sabba devata sabba sanghanu bhavena sada soti bhavantu te. So the meaning of that chant is, by the power of the Buddhas, the Dhamma, and the Sangha, may you be well, may you be helped. Okay? All right. Is there anybody else who has a poem or something they would like to share?
I have a poem that has connections. Hi, I'm Emily. It's good to see you all. I usually Zoom in. I live just west of Charlottesville, so don't get here very often, but it's lovely to be here in the flesh. I just have a poem from Mary Oliver, the wonderful poet that I've read for many years, and this poem came to me this morning. And it relates to both the star and the transition from life to death to life. Again, it's from Mary Oliver in her book House of Light, and it's called The Buddha's Last Instruction. The Buddha's Last Instruction. Make of yourself a light, said the Buddha before he died. I think of this every morning as the east begins to tear off its many clouds of darkness, to send up the first signal, a white fan streaked with pink and violet, even green. An old man, the Buddha laid down between two sala trees, and he might have said anything, knowing it was his final hour. The light burns upward. It thickens and settles over the fields. Around him, the villagers gathered and stretched forward to listen. Even before the sun itself hangs disattached in the blue air, I am touched everywhere by its ocean of yellow waves. No doubt he thought of everything that had happened in his difficult life. And then I feel the sun itself as it blazes over the hills like a million flowers on fire. Clearly, I'm not needed, yet I feel myself turning into something of inexplicable value. Slowly, beneath the branches, he raised his head and he looked into the faces of that frightened crowd.
Wow. Yeah. Thank you so much. Sharing? Okay.
Nothing as thoughtful as everyone else, but I just wanted to wish Mom a very happy birthday. It was a very big birthday, and I think everyone here loves you and appreciates you. And so I love you and happy birthday, Mom. Okay, that is all. So kind of sharing.
No, it's.
Oh.
Okay. Thank you. Anybody online want to do a little sharing? ¿Quieres decir algo, Elizabeth? ¿Nada? Ok, está bien.
Solo desear un muy feliz día de Buda a toda la sangha. Y muchas gracias por estar y por estar tú. Muchas gracias.
Beautiful. She says she wants to wish everybody a very happy Buddha day in the Sangha, and thank you for being, and thank you again. So that's what she said. Yeah. Oh. So I think with that, we'll bring it to a close and just end with a brief blessing. May you have every good blessing. May all the devas protect you. By the power of all the Buddhas, by the power of all the Dhamma, by the power of all the Sangha, may you ever be well. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Well done, everybody. Thank you so much. So please, those folks who are in the room, please feel free to have lots of desserts, because as you can see, we have a lot of desserts. You can also take a second crack at the savories over there, and or take home food. There are lots of Ziploc bags or containers. If folks want to take any sort of food home with you, please also feel really welcome to do that. And yes, many blessings. And, we carry on. Tomorrow there will be a Dharma talk. Yes, Susan.
Request from a birthday cake maker that we sing happy birthday.
Oh, okay.
If we could do that.
Okay. Who wants to hold the microphone for singing happy birthday? We can just all sing? Okay. Everybody will be able to.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Diane. Happy birthday
To you.
Now you see why I didn't tell you until now. When my birthday is. No, thanks everyone. It's wonderful to celebrate together. Yeah. All right. Bye-bye. Well, we'll leave the screen on if anybody wants to interact, but it'll get loud. It's probably going to get loud again.